Well, you haven't really examined. You haven't really explored, because the only tools up until this point that you've ever had are prescriptions, and therefore you've always looked at things from the standpoint of what did I do wrong, who's to blame, how could I have been better, and all of these things. And so the only tools that you had at your disposal were the ones that society gave to you, and therefore until you find that until you discover the realization in yourself, not because I say, but on your own, that those tools are not effective for you or for anyone, and you cannot say that you've already found that because you haven't. Uh, you haven't been following my work long enough to know that yet. So uh, until that realization dawns that those tools of prescription and rightness and wrongness and betterment and improvement and modification and strategy and routine and hacks and all of these things and methods, until those are seen to be ineffective and utterly wasteful, that's what you have not seen.
Hello, Kapil. So, what is the role of truth in someone's life who's trying to be financially free? Um, in one of your talks, you said that someone who is busy feeding his stomach might not be, have such a strong seek for truth. But in my case, though I'm not financially free, I have a very, like, I don't know why I'm just attracted to your work and these things. So, what is the role of truth for someone who's trying to be financially free?
Well, if someone is seeking truth, then everything has truth. So there is no reason to go live in a cave. In whatever one's work is, there is truth. Unless one does it in a cosmetic fashion, or unless one does something that one has no or limited talent or limited interest for, then there's absolute truth in everything. So truth is not distinct from life. In fact, it is the only relevant portions of life. Everything else is insignificant.
Oh, I'm sorry, I pressed the raise hand button by mistake.
Hello, hello. Am I audible? Hello, Siddha. My question is, what is the difference between a human life and a non-human life, if there is any? Thank you so much.
Which one do you have? Did you hear the question?
I'm sorry I didn't.
Which life do you have?
Human life.
Is your human life perfect?
I don't believe so.
Have you arrived to where you wish to arrive?
I feel like I have.
Okay, so you've overcome your problems?
I don't. Yes. If I see problems, I don't really dwell in them.
Okay, so then why would you say that your life is not perfect then? If you have arrived where you wish to arrive and you don't really have any problems, that's pretty perfect.
Thank you.
Hi Siddha, how are you? Hello.
If you are invited on stage, you may ask your question.
Siddha, I am very suffer from humanity. So what should I do?
14 jumping jacks, 3 sit-ups, and 1 mile around the track.
Hi, Kapil. Thanks for having me. My question is about arrival to a valuable life because I feel like I live a valuable life by default, but I get kind of like hooked on to these pitfalls like pleasure chasing or many of the pitfalls that you discuss. And I feel like I'm slowly spending less time in those pitfalls. I'm being more aware of them and becoming less frequently hooked on. And I'm just trying to understand, is truth seeking in your experience something that is gradual and
Well, why do you think that
almost
you
a
live a
difficult
valuable
process?
life?
Sorry?
Why do you think that you live a valuable life?
I feel like when, like kind of by default, like before I was really, is it all right if I think about it?
You can come back when you're ready.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Kapil. Is the source sure, with regards to human activity? Is it caused by? I I, I don't want to ask. Is it caused by something? Because I don't know if that'll help. I just want to understand why it occurs. Why we humans um feel inertia and don't. Is that question kind of clear? I know it's a little messy.
Yeah, I'm not sure what context you're using inertia in.
The context I'm using it in is in the sense that I remember you put out a tweet once. Men coast, but even when they realize progress isn't actually getting to where you want to get, progress suits itself. It's a chase for itself. You realize that people don't really do anything. It's almost as if we run in place instead of having our desires take us from one place to another.
Well, no, that's absolutely true. The human being does run in place. But that shouldn't be that you take my word for it. That should be fairly obvious. And if it's not, it's okay. It just means that one has to examine to see how he is running in place.
I guess that makes sense. I just wanted to understand. I guess it's self-image. I don't want to just throw out like, oh, it's just the mind. It's just self. I don't want to throw out a cliche answer, but it's
Yeah,
just
it's important to remember one thing. Intellectualism is the enemy of truth.
Again, there's a few reasons I think, or the way I look at what a valuable life is and the way I live. For example, kind of having a state of flow, being very immersed in what I'm doing, at the same time kind of feeling like I'm very aware in that meditative state. And then also kind of the feedback I get from other people saying that that my voice kind of cuts through the noise, or I look at things very clearly. I know it's kind of cliche, but a few things like that I think is my default state of living, but not necessarily where I spend the majority of my time.
Okay.
And so my question is, you talk a lot about arrival, and in my experience, I'm spending more time as I become more experienced in the pitfalls and understanding how I can avoid them. And is it, in your experience, is it kind of a gradual process that you continuously improve at, or might it be more effective to look at something that's more of a sudden arrival?
Well, transformation does happen in an instant. There is no such thing as building towards. Progress is a myth, particularly in things. The things that I discuss are not mechanical. And so it's going to be the opposite of mechanical. In the world of mechanics, you can give a prescription. In the world of mechanics, there is progress. If you're building a house, there is progress that now the foundation is done, now the first floor is done. But in the realm of the mind, in the realm of human transformation, there is no such thing as collecting enough points, gaining enough rewards, putting in enough time, doing enough good deeds, practicing enough austerities, meditation hours. All of those things are counter to truth. They don't go anywhere. So if there is something that allows someone to get somewhere, it truly is seriousness and maturity. And if something takes time, it is probably that. It isn't, the arrival is not being prevented by not doing the right thing or not practicing enough austerities. The arrival is being prevented by the fact that you don't really want it enough yet. And the moment that someone wants it, then they're all in and they expose themselves to truth 24/7. And that's a person who demonstrates that to himself, that that's what they truly want.
Kapil, why is it that when I hear the truth, I get feelings in the first place, in the beginning, but then I return to the same old place again, and that loop keeps going?
Well, because you understand it only intellectually. And the feelings arise from the fact that if it's really truth, then it stands starkly in the background of the falsehoods that you're used to, and therefore it provides a feeling. But it doesn't last because it isn't truly understood, it isn't truly imbibed.
Hello, Kapil. I believe I have built a valuable life, but I struggle with this last humming 5% of anxiety. Will that always exist?
No, it's not 5%.
Or 10%?
It's the undercurrent. And will it always exist? That depends entirely upon one's dedication to discovering the truth about that. That's what it entirely depends upon.
Hi, Kapil. I just want to know if someone is trying to fulfill a desire, whatever that desire may be, whether it's more women, more money, is that just um, them trying to run from the truth or stopping themselves from reaching that truth?
Well, whatever desire a person has, he has. So it doesn't matter what it is. So if you were told that it's X and Y and Z, is that going to make you stop having the desire? So the question doesn't, it's just chit chat.
Hello, Kapil, can you hear me? Hello?
The questions seem to be diminishing over time, which is a very effective sign. It is a sign that perhaps the human being is recognizing that much of the questions that he has are cosmetic how-to prescriptive questions. And that tool being taken away from him leaves him nothing else to ask, which demonstrates very clearly that the only thing that a human being knows how to do is to ask how-to questions. And it is precisely for that reason that humans don't get anywhere. Because how-tos and prescriptions and methods and techniques and hacks are the blind leading the blind.
I just wanted to thank you, Kapil. That was
Okay.
truth. Thank you.
Truth of infinity complex. I suffer from it a lot. I don't know from where it's coming.
I cannot hear you.
Inferiority complex. I suffer from it a lot, and I don't know from where it is coming. What's the truth behind it?
This is not the topic of the.
Hello, Siddha. Thanks for letting me speak. My question was, can exposure, can a constant exposure to the non-truth at the mental layer, intellectual layer, conditioning layer, or the ego layer, can that constant exposure and better understand the opposite? That seriousness is manifested as desire to understand the non-truth.
Well, I think that's a very. There's a very easy way to answer that question, is by examining your own life and by the examining of the life of the people that you know, and examining the life of all the human beings at large. That's exactly what has happened. Is a lifelong, constant exposure to untruth, and examine what has happened from that. Has the result of a constant exposure to untruth from society resulted in people seeking truth?
Thank you for that answer. So the opposite doesn't happen. Like the truth is seeking to discover itself, and that is leading to recognizing everything around somebody as untrue.
Why would the truth want to discover itself? Truth does not give 2 cents about a human being. These are all just spiritual quotes that you've picked up. You are seeking it is seeking you. These things are really, they should do a stand-up comedy routine about these things, and then they should do a scientific study. And since you happen to love science, and others happen to love science, do a scientific study. How many human beings who follow all the austerities and can preach the gospel and can tell you every single minute of meditation that they did, how many of them actually get somewhere in terms of permanence, be it enlightenment or realization or freedom or whatever it may be? I don't mean 5 minutes of feeling a modicum of peace. I mean truly where after which a before and an after to which they're totally transformed.
Hi. I meant to ask this as a follow-up question last time I was here. I'm just curious why. Like,
that isn't a question. That's just spiritual mumbo jumbo. So ask what you want.
Why Siddha Performance?
What does that mean?
I'm asking you directly.
I don't know what you're asking.
Is there a driving force behind how you show up in this way?
What does you mean?
I guess I only know you as how I've always known you.
Well, I don't know if you're using you in a proverbial sense, or are you asking me how I show up?
Not how, but why.
To what?
To this message.
I don't know. It just happens. Everything happens. Everything happens organically. There is not. It isn't motivated by strategy or. There really isn't anything that I get from this, to be honest. So I don't know why. It just happens, and the moment that it happens, I find myself here like you find myself.
So it's not by decision, but just because.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is a very wise thing that you said. It is absolutely not by decision. Actions that are driven by decision and choice are very limited actions. And in the world of truth, the motivational aspect, the engine behind things, is an unpredictable spontaneity.
I guess to me, decision is what cuts a motivation, like a motivational source. I guess just the way I perceive it is just it doesn't have to be a motivational or purposeful thing, but at the end of the day, you log on here and you show up, and that doesn't just happen. That is, the app doesn't open itself, and you don't. There is a voluntary aspect to it.
Yes, you could say there's a voluntary aspect to it, but the voluntary aspects all ride the vehicle of an unseen force.
That's fair. Thanks.
Hello, Siddha. Thank you. I'm very proud to be, I believe, the first trans woman of color here. I guess the question that I would have for you is, how would you rank each of the races?
Can you live a valuable life without a God?
Um, I've heard you before, and I'm always curious to know what are those universal facts or truths that you talk about? Can you name a few?
Can you name a few?
Good morning. Am I audible?
Hi, Siddha. Earlier you said that when there is choice to be made, you just do it spontaneously. Is that by gut feeling or because what I find myself is like after uh, disregarding the beliefs, when there are choices to be made, I'm usually in a state of confusion. So I wanted to know, like when you say it happens spontaneously, is it the gut feeling or what is it? How does it happen spontaneously?
There's no how. Spontaneous is as non-how as you get. If you're going to turn spontaneous into a how, then you're not going to stop at anything. If even spontaneous is going to be a how, then that invalidates the entire word of spontaneous.
Good morning, Sita. Why people have fear of success? That's my question.
Good evening, Kapil. There are two things that I feel have been preventing me from living a valuable life. One, I've been plagued by a sense of loneliness for many years, from relationships with other people just dying or fizzling out. The second thing is been plagued by self-doubt with achieving my career aspirations. I've explored these things for a long time, and I feel I'm gotten nowhere and I'm still stuck. And I suppose my question is, what am I missing? What have I not seen? Thank you.
Examined. You haven't really explored, because the only tools up until this point that you've ever had are prescriptions, and therefore you've always looked at things from the standpoint of what did I do wrong, who's to blame, how could I have been better, and all of these things. And so the only tools that you had at your disposal were the ones that society gave to you, and therefore until you find that discover the realization in yourself, not because I say, but on your own, that those tools are not effective for you or for anyone. And you cannot say that you've already found that, because you haven't. You haven't been following my work long enough to know that yet. So until that realization dawns, that those tools of prescription and rightness and wrongness and betterment and improvement and modification and strategy and routine and hacks and all of these things and methods until those are seen to be ineffective and utterly wasteful. That's what you have not seen.
Thank you.
Namaste. Sitting with you in the clubhouse, most of my questions disappear by itself. But one of the questions, actually one question that I have is, what is love?
So there have been three or four people in the last 15 minutes who have come on stage and not said anything. If you were invited on stage, you may ask your question.
Thank you so much. By coincidence, today I was talking about how I was hoping that your room would come up because I love your room. And my question is, you're welcome. My question is, during these pandemic times, what are some, I guess, advice that you can bring to people who wish to continue to perform at the highest of their abilities?
Well, when has it not been pandemic times?
Oh, I love that. Good question.
I think that I did a discourse about this. It's always been a pandemic time. If it isn't coronavirus, it's your own anxiety.
Yes.
If it is coronavirus, it's your anxiety about coronavirus, and it's your anxiety about were you a living Buddha before coronavirus came? So these things are all details. They have no meaning. Everyone is just a cosmetic chaser. This is a very societal question because everyone in society just looks at the current events and then organizes their fears and their anxieties around the current events like a swarm of bees. A human being has lived in a pandemic since the day he was born. He has lived in a holocaust since the day he was born. He has never known a life free of fear, free of anxiety, free of sorrow, free of pain, free of tragedy, free of confusion. Therefore, it has always been pandemic times. And as for something to say, there is no balm. There's no good feeling. You're better off chasing the self-help experts. If you want a dose of good feeling, and put some ointment on your wounds. This is for serious people who truly want to get somewhere in the life that they have remaining, in the years that they have left, to truly arrive at somewhere transformational and permanent. That by the time they die, they can say that they arrived somewhere. At least they have tasted a fraction of what nature intended for them, instead of chasing nonsensical, prescriptive routines and austerities and self-helps and feel-goods and bumper sticker and Yahoo and laugh it up. It's all so shameful.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. You just said that this room is for serious people who want to experience something fundamentally changing permanently. Now, the experience I had once is that truth is like running on treadmill. You have to experience it every moment to moment. You cannot have a permanent experience. Can you have a permanent experience?
It isn't about the experience. It's about realization.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. So I guess my question, I guess just to start by saying that I do believe that everybody is living a valuable life, just predestined, but that value gets lost in chasing what society has defined to be the value of human life. And obviously, to come to that realization, there's a lot of unlearning and relearning that needs to be done. But I feel like taking that path also involves a lot of intellectualism. And you say that intellectualism is the enemy of truth. So do you think that intellectualism is part of the process in getting to the truth?
Not for the intellectual. There's a lot in your question which relates to I said this and I said that. What I say doesn't matter. It isn't about believing me. It is about what you see for yourself. So it doesn't matter that I say that intellectualism will lead nowhere. That doesn't mean anything to the intellectual. Therefore, he's better off not even hearing it. It's if the person recognizes for themselves that the intellectual will view everything as an intellectual concept, and he will intellectualize it forever because he believes that intellectualism is his God. Therefore, he will always keep everything at arm's length, and nothing will ever get into his bloodstream. But it doesn't matter that I say that. The key is that the human being has to recognize these things for themselves. Otherwise, they'll just be adding more belief systems, and beliefs have no value to anyone.
Namaste. Is God the only
truly valuable thing in life?
It depends who asks the question, and it depends where they are, and it depends which context we're talking about, and it depends what their level of sincerity is. So my immediate answer would be that the question isn't real, because the number of human beings who are life devoted to anything in this life is virtually zero. So it's a difficult question to answer because I don't know where it's truly coming from.
Hello, Dr. Gupta. So recently I discovered that my family is narcissistic, and so knowing this truth actually liberated me in a way, but that's not the outcome I wanted. So uh, is the truth always not liberating, or it's not
Well, what you have
helping you
found,
arrive at the right
what you
place?
have found is not a truth. That's just a word. That has no meaning. Do you not have ego? Have you conquered your ego?
No, but narcissistic is much stronger than an ego,
No.
right?
Sorry, no, it's not. That's just a made-up word.
Uh,
These words have no meaning.
I mean, like,
But,
there's no way I can tell you the behavior. Like, I
well,
can describe you the behavior,
no,
but not.
there's no way. There's no way that someone who believes in these words is ready for the truth. Nothing more for me to say.
Yeah, the
Thank you for bringing me up. If you choose to do good to someone, adding value and trying to make a positive difference, but if that person do something bad to others, what will happen?
Well, you seem to be speaking from experience. What did happen?
I may feel bad.
Okay. So you have just provided a prime example of why it's no point doing good for others. These are just falsehoods. It doesn't mean that everyone who does for others is being false. It does not mean that. There are some very truly sincere and giving human beings in this world. There genuinely are. But the real reward for a human being, not that he's chasing a reward, but just as a natural byproduct, the real benefit of a human being, the real value to a human being comes when he puts all of his attention on discovering truth in his own life and discovering purity in his own life, as opposed to trying to do good things. There isn't a human being on earth who does a good thing without in some way feeling pleasure for it and feeling that he's going to get points for that. And it doesn't diminish what they did, because they likely had a very positive impact on another human being's life, and so it doesn't diminish that. But the ultimate is all that matters. The height of heights. And that comes from the examination and the exploration of the value in one's own life.
Thank you.
Hello, Siddha. I know this question doesn't really. One of the answer I expect for my question is that does it really matter? But I think I'm gonna put the question because it's a question for me in my mind. Do you think is human race a genetic mutation or an accident or?
Thank you. Is there any way, organic way to arrive at truth?
It begins with devotion. There's no prescription. And you immediately asked for the way. And that's very prescriptive.
Okay.
Hello, Siddha. I have a quick question. People say we achieve permanent happiness with leaving all the negative shades, let's say ego, jealous, etc. But will we appreciate good without seeing bad?
Neither has any.
Hi, Dr. Gupta. I've been following your work for some time and received your private discourses. Thank you for that. My question is, I'm gaining more and more understanding about the falseness of and the patterns of my mind, and my question is, who is understanding? Because I see my mind over there doing what the mind does, but I'm not sure who it is that's understanding. Who is it that feels a deep
any response
connection?
that I give to you will be only viewed as intellectual. These are things that have to organically arise.
Okay.
Thank you for having me up. I have one question for you, if there's an answer at all. If at all, at what point can intellectualism and spirituality harmonize?
Never. Both are falsehoods. Both are societal creations. Therefore, they're by definition false.
Hi, Siddha. Thank you for having me. I have a question. Like most of the times, we know what to do, but our tendencies and the inertia of the mind and the body, it tends to overpower us. How would you suggest we get over these tendencies?
Hi, Dr. Gupta. I have a question or maybe a clarification. I thought I understood something I don't think I fully have. When you mentioned like the valuable life, and you said like value and exploration of one's own life. So I guess it's a clarification in regards to two parts. You said giving and then effectiveness. Do you mean giving in regards to other people and then effectiveness?
No,
I don't know.
What life gives to you.
Okay, giving. So giving, and I don't think I quite understand. What do you mean by giving in that sense?
What life gives to you. So far, life is taken from you at every turn.
Okay, I'm going to think about this. Thank you.
Hello, thank you for having me. My question is, what does humanity means to you and to the world? Thank you.
Nothing.
Hello.
Hello, Kapil. My question is, why is health such a difficult topic for me to seem to understand?
I cannot say why something is difficult for you. Are you finished?
Yes.
Allow.
Do you think the path of wisdom is the only path? And because you're
How does one decide what is most valuable to them? Kapil, you're so valuable to me that I don't want you to host these rooms anymore and answer stupid questions. I don't want you to waste your time. I don't want to hear all of this. Thanks.
Can sincerity be cultivated, or does it arise? I sometimes have a desire, and I wonder whether where it came from and whether I'm in control of it. Where can it be said what produces desires and how one is to determine whether they are true or not?
For practical purposes, all your desires are untrue.
Hello, Kapil. Thanks so much for taking my question, as always. Is devotion voluntary, or does it come from a sense of will?
Well, it is not by choice, and nor is it by will. Nothing that is sincere, nothing that is genuine, nothing that is serious comes by way of will. It is something that is deep within the human being, that is organic and spontaneous. It is not